I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Alarzya joins us. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. If you would, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I am Alarzya, also known as the Storyteller, the Queen of Crows. I do primarily story-based content. This includes going through story-based games and creating my own stories, with the addition of also going through content that other people give me to look through and enjoy.
Cool. That's excellent. That's great. And the concept of storytelling is something it goes from tall tales to Aesop's fables.
Yeah.
The storytelling. So I enjoy that quite a bit, and I'm glad that you're doing this. What got you involved in being a storyteller?
Ooh. What got me involved in being a storyteller? I don't know. I've loved stories for so long.
Hmm.
I've loved telling stories. I've loved reading stories. It's such a big thing for so long that I could never pinpoint truly where it started.
Yeah.
Um, I
It's,
just know. Oh,
I'm just saying, you just it's just something that from a young age, you just kind of embraced, and it embraced you.
yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So you are you a writer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a
isn't go ahead.
it's a hobby that I do want to take more interest in.
Yeah. Yeah. You left it on a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It's it's something that I do like off and on,
Yeah.
primarily because I get really distracted really easily,
I
but
got
I do write.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it a situation where you get the idea and you start to get going, and then suddenly it's like I'm tired of typing.
Yeah, except I'm tired of writing with my hands. My
Oh.
hands hurt.
Oh yeah. Well, that's I know how that goes. I'm trying to do a desk job with one hand in a splint type thing. That's not a lot of fun. Um, at least it's not my writing hand. That's good news. The um, so how did you come up with the concept of doing this as a VTuber?
Mm, I always wanted to do content.
Mm-hmm.
And I originally was already going to use an avatar of sorts when it came to doing that content. But when I finally understood what a VTuber was and learned more about it and saw people around me really delving into it, I was like, that's kind of fun. That looks perfect. And I already have something in mind
Mm-hmm.
to go along with that. So it's more of like I already had something to fit that niche
Mm. So, so it
rather
yeah,
than,
it's like it
oh,
found you.
yeah.
That's cool. It's always good to be ready when something like that comes along. Well,
Yeah.
this certainly does. The concept of storytelling certainly does fit the medium well. Um, and I think that something like this would be a lot of fun to do if you have the voice for it, and you don't get a sore throat or anything, which is the bane of all announcers and people who read copy. Um, would you rather? Are you one of those people who can make up a story on the spot and go from there, or do you have to have it all laid out in front of
I am definitely somebody who has to have it all laid out
you?
in
Yeah,
front of me.
yeah,
Definitely need it planned.
yeah. It
Just,
you don't trust yourself from wandering off.
oh, yeah, because I wander off too much in my normal everyday life.
The story about A story about a man and his plan in rural Utah in the 1800s. Then finally you're in outer space.
Yep.
Well, that was a heck of a story.
How'd we get there again?
Yes, if you can get from one place to the other like that, you've got a career ahead of you for that. But the
Yeah.
would you rather? I imagine you're reading a lot because I mean that's where you get a lot of the stories. Would you rather have a story in front of you that is in one volume, start to finish, sitting by itself, or one that continues on with other books in a series?
Ooh, that's hard to say.
Mm,
I feel like I want it all in front of me
mm. You went-
because I can just go through the entire story at my own pace,
Yeah.
and then I don't have to wait for more content.
The impatient storyteller.
uh,
I went on myself. Well, I mean, if you do have it in front of you and you know it's going to be finished in one book or one section, you know everything is going to be wrapped up at the end, hopefully, and
mhm.
you don't have to worry about if it's well done. You don't have to worry about storylines going nowhere or am I going to have to remember this in a month when the next one comes out? That type of thing. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's there used to be a couple of series of books I read when I was younger, and I end up reading them out of order, which is just ugh. You start 1, 7, 3, 10. It doesn't work that way.
I I understand that way too well
Yeah,
because I have a couple books even now where it's out of order because I haven't found the other pieces of the set.
yeah, 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 and God forbid if you jump in the middle of one or underway, and then you're like, I really like this. I have to start from the beginning, and you can't find the beginning. And
Hmm.
like, okay, well, a good thing there's the internet now. I can find it on eBay maybe if I'm lucky. So, so you've always been someone who enjoys the stories, whether it's telling or whether it's reading. Are there a particular type of story that you like?
Hmm. I really like darker, kind of grittier stories.
Mm.
Something I've found myself kind of inching towards is Lovecraft.
Ah,
I really enjoy those. They're really creepy. They're really interesting to really delve into.
yeah. I had somebody here on recently who was very much into what they called space horror. I think they called it. That a kind of a genre that along those lines. Um, and I that while I'd never put those two words together myself, it makes sense for a genre. What would you consider? Would first of all, would you consider what you're talking about a space horror genre, or does it even have a genre?
I I believe the genre is like a sci-fi horror
Mm,
when it comes to Lovecraft.
hmm And what would be a recommendation if you say, well, here, Eric, here's one way to get started in it. Uh, here's a book to try.
Mm, as I'm still on Lovecraft, Lovecraft actually has a big edition book
Yeah.
that has all of his poems and all of his stories in it, and it's honestly worth picking up.
Mm, yeah. I'll have to look more into it. Um I'm one of those folks who has got a bunch of stories rattling around in my head, but I can't get myself to go down and type them out. I just can't get it done. Uh, so what motivates you to get your stuff out there when you've got a story put together in your head?
I want to make people happy.
Mm,
I I mean, I obviously want to create, but I also want to make people happy. I am a strong believer that creation is a type of healing. So, and if you're not creating, then you can consume other people's creations to
mm,
really bring about some kind of healing. And I want to provide some of that healing as a creator. So I create.
yeah, that's cool. That's a great way to look at this type of thing because it's really if someone's a good storyteller, there's a lot of comfort involved in it, um, and maybe even some trust as well. If you're someone who comes back to the same person over and over again, there's a trust that builds up that you're not gonna, you know, unnecessarily jump scare them or hijack the train off into, into like we had to go from Utah cowboy to space cowboy in a story. Um, so when you're on and doing these, do you find folks that are coming back for that trust?
Yeah, I've definitely found that already.
Mm,
I like I said, I actually go through content and read what people make, and while it's not always necessarily like my like work,
mm,
while I have thrown my own stuff in there, I do voice it and I do talk about it.
mm.
And I've already had people tell me, I really like that content, and I always come back to it because it's so relaxing, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, you've got one of those voices that doesn't have a lot of sharp points. It's very easy to listen to, and that really lends that into that a lot when you've got something to a story to come across that people aren't jarring around like they're in the back of an old station wagon on a bumpy road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you always been somebody who'd like to get up to the microphone and give a speech or be out in front of people?
Mm, it's really weird
Hmm.
because I actually don't like being out in front of people.
Well, I could see that. I don't either. And no, really, I didn't. I mean, I've been on. There's been times when I'm sure, 'cause I did a little bit of radio for in a major college sports town, that there were thousands of folks listening. But I don't want to see them while I'm talking to them. There's a big difference there. It's uh, are you have you gotten yourself comfortable with knowing that there are people out there listening while you're talking?
Yeah, I very much have. It never really necessarily bothered me in the first place. I really enjoy having a conversation while talking or knowing people are listening while I'm talking. I just don't want to be in front of a giant crowd in the public in the middle of a sunny day or a cold winter morning talking to people.
Just so the being the poet on the corner is not going to be for you.
No.
No, no, so you can stay inside and I'll take the money for it. How about that? I'll give you 10%. It'll work. Um, the the uh, talking about the stories. Now you say you play story games too, kind of thing. What would be an example of one of those games that you play online?
So I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14.
Mm.
Like way too much. But when I play it, especially while doing streaming, I go through the main story or I go through some kind of side story and I really cover the story of it.
Mhm.
And instead of just hopping around doing like this quest or that quest that doesn't really go anywhere, or doing my dailies where that's just kind of mindless content.
Mhm. Yeah, so you
I,
like to keep the main story going and not worry so much about the side stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, is that something that affects how you enjoy games? As if they're as if they stick to the story and don't try to turn you in all sorts of different directions.
Kind of.
Mm. Yeah. So it's, you say kind of. So there must be an exception to the rule.
I really like games that tell stories.
Yeah.
How those stories get told is a whole different matter
Mm.
because I cannot deny that I'm an avid enjoyer of Skyrim,
Mm.
and I cannot tell you how many times I've just went off main quest just to do other side quests.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, those are stories too. I mean, in their own, they're
Yeah,
little short stories, but they're stories. And
yeah,
and um, you can bring that into the main stuff. But there are some games that just put in stuff just to put in stuff, and
yeah,
and that's pretty useless when it comes
yeah.
to that's pretty tough to deal with no matter what you like to do. So, would you like to put together eventually your own visual novel type game?
Oh, 100%.
Mm. So,
I think that would be a fun project to do.
yeah, yeah,
Um, or just like a small game in general. I think that'd be really fun to do.
yeah,
I know there are people around me who are already wanting to do that, so if I could help that, then I would.
yeah. What's so you got this air about you that you're holding. It's like, yeah, I've thought about it before. I've got the entire thing entire thing mapped out in my mind. So spill the beans.
It's more of like I know what somebody else's plan is, and
Ah,
I
okay.
really want to help them with that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So
Um,
if it was your idea, I'd press more. But if somebody else's, I'm not going to press.
yeah.
Yeah, don't want you to spill their beans. Spill your own beans on when. But I think that it's that type of creativity that in the artistry, which is it's what it is. Storytelling is an art, um, whether folks believe it or not. It just is. Um,
hmm
the whole concept of it is such an old concept. It used to be the only way we ever knew anything, and you had to by word of mouth and telling the stories of what happened before. It wasn't like you could, in Roman times, you could tune in your local radio station and find out what was going on. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it had to be a story, and of course, it got bigger and bigger each time somebody told the story. The emperor stubbed his toe. The emperor fought and killed 2,000 people on his own, and was slightly injured in the foot in the process. Um, but to you, what what draws you to want to do this as a VTuber? I, it's there's got to be something that wakes you up each day to do it.
I, as a VTuber, actually get to explore a lot more stories
Mm,
than just create.
mm,
And I find a lot of value in exploring other stories because, as a storyteller, if you are just making your own stories and not exploring others, it becomes quickly flat and repetitive. And world exploration, especially as a creator of like us as being a VTuber in this example, is allows you to open a lot more doors and gather more voices to hear more.
mm. Yeah, yeah, kind of if you're only doing your own stuff, first of all, that's a lot of pressure to do.
hmm
I mean, you come up with something new each time you come on, but also you do kind of stand in your own universe, um, because it's just more comfortable that way. But as you said, each person who's putting together their own story has their own universe to go with, has their own everything, their own rules as to what happens in that universe. That does make a big difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've come across so many different stories that people have made that really just make me go, "Oh, that's really interesting because I didn't think of X thing this way."
Mm,
And it's just so lovely.
yeah. Yeah. It's that little bit of creativity that we get to see. Um, the now the question after that is how well do they pull it off? But real good idea. You should have used, real words instead of just making things up on the way. But there are also there are certain styles that people use in writing. Like for me, I love the Douglas Adams set of books. Uh,
Hmm.
that I could read that stuff all day and night and laugh like a fool during the whole time because he had such an odd way and funny way of using the language um, in a descriptive manner to really get you a good visual picture of what it is. Even if it doesn't seem to make sense in the beginning, you like okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you have a favorite author slash storyteller?
I knew at one point that I really liked Neil Gaiman
Hmm.
because one of my favorite stories is Coraline.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh, Recent years that's kind of dwindled. I intake a lot more reading from the perspective of the art form than just the creator.
Hmm.
So it makes it hard to really pinpoint if I have a favorite writer currently.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's so when you do look for stories, um, maybe not so much online, but in off as well. Do you do you go by word of mouth as to what to look for? Do you go to an online bookstore or an actual physical bookstore to go and look at what's there available, or what will draw you in?
So sometimes I do go by word of mouth
Hmm.
because knowing where people have their ideas like inspired from and what they like is really interesting. But I do go into physical bookstores and I look at what's there.
Hmm. Yeah, I still go in there and just die because there's so much stuff I want to look at.
Yeah.
And I know I'll get in trouble if I keep because I'll never put the books back.
Yeah.
I don't do it at home. Why should I
Oh,
do it here? But
the amount of oh,
go ahead.
the amount of times that I've just gone into a bookstore and I'm like, I want that. I want that. Wait, no, I don't have money for that.
Yes.
No, stop.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Like that looks so good. Oh no, I can't do it. What about used bookstores? Have you gone in any of those?
Oh yeah.
Oof.
Uh I think I actually picked up my Hunger Games trilogy from a used bookstore. So,
Mm. Yeah. Hopefully you saved some money on it.
oh
Because
yeah.
the books do cost a lot these days. Um, everything does. So what's the difference there? But um, you know, seriously. But I did manage to go the last time I went to a used bookstore. I managed to get a first edition copy by accident of a hardcover book
Ooh,
I wanted, and yeah, I was like, whoa, hey, that's nice. I mean, I'm still going
that's
to
a
read it,
treat.
but it's like and it's still also you get every once in a while they're like autographed, and nobody realizes it until you bring it home. So go to your used bookstore locally and check it out because you'll be surprised that you're able to come up with. So
Yeah.
do you kind of consider yourself now the a warrior for storytelling?
Yeah.
Got
I
the shield and the armor up, ready to fight for storytelling.
yeah. Uh on the same kind of flip side, I also get really combative about certain types of storytelling and especially doing like show versus tell and stuff. and really just breaking down what stories you like read.
Hmm. How? In what way?
So, breaking down stories into its themes, its structure, where things happen, how they happen. I One of the best advices I could give as a writer is that you take other stories and you learn how they are structured and how they implement their themes, because then you can get a deeper understanding of what you can do as a writer.
Mm. Mm. Is it good to base yourself on a template like that and modify it, or when you're starting off, just kind of stick with the template?
You can stick with the template. I find it really easier to stick with a template, especially because a lot of other stories that I found have stuck with that template.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and
So
as long as you're, I can you do that and avoid pigeonholing yourself into some things?
that is avoid pigeonholing. That may be a little difficult. It takes a lot of practice, and I know that.
Yeah, yeah. I talk to a lot of folks who do like artwork and things, and they like to draw, they like to paint when they're young, and then they kind of go to a class, and you know how in Play-Doh they take Play-Doh and the Play-Doh through a hole, and it comes out a certain shape, or maybe a
Yeah.
sausage grinder might be even better. They kind of put everybody through that same grinder, and sometimes they try to bring the personality and your own personal style out of it. Um, what would you suggest for somebody starting off who maybe has a little bit of a different style? Um, adopt how?
mm, Probably I would say more adopt than adapt.
Mm,
Adopt allows you to take what other people have done and be inspired by it, and then cultivate that into your own style,
mm,
while adapting kind of can shave off of some of your own personal style,
yeah, yeah,
which may be a detriment to how you want to write. Another important thing about writing is that it is your distinct voice.
mm,
And if you do the most cookie cutter thing, you're going to lose that. And a lot of people come to read to listen to that voice.
mm. Yeah, yeah. There's people who do in all sorts of different voices, whether it's first person, third person, narrator style, that type of thing when they're writing a story. Which do
Hmm.
you prefer to do for yourself? Would you rather do that as a character in the story, as a narrator, or as a third person type?
Third person,
Mm,
I have found is most fun for me.
mm, mm. Yeah. What makes it better for you?
I honestly don't know. I feel like it's just something that I kind of grew into,
Hmm. Yes, just the
but
comfort level more than anything else.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would think that would be, of course, me being from a radio background, I would think that if I was to actually put some of these stories bouncing around in my head onto paper, it would look more like a radio script and read very much like radio, which is very so much different than actual writing for like essays and themes and that sort of thing. It's very much different. It's very colloquial, and it's very casual. Uh, would that style of writing turn that off to you to read?
No.
Mm,
I think it's actually really interesting. It's really fun, and if there was more stories I could read like that, that would be really interesting, especially based on what story you're telling.
Mm. Well, a good story usually survives bad writing,
Yeah,
and
because
yeah,
oh,
because why?
because I believe like quote unquote bad writing doesn't mean anything at the end of the day.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I
If
mean,
you
it's the idea that counts. If
Yeah.
you can get it across. And personally, I've never cared for how you got the idea across, as long as it gets from point A to point B. Um, Now, I'd rather you don't go through point Q, in another dimension to get there. But if you have and some stories that have lots of things hanging out there, um, that's a little irritating. Um, if you were to put together a book, do you think you could, of a one solid novel book? Have you thought about putting one together?
Mm, I kind of have, and when I say kind of, I have stories to tell
Mm-hmm.
and I want to tell them, but as much as I like reading books, it was never a book that I was drawn
Mm-hmm.
to tell that story. It was more of a comic.
Mm. The graphic novel type.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's going to be more and more what we get, I believe, and which is fine. Uh, it's it's it takes a little bit, I guess, from the imagination a little, but it also makes the story more available for some folks. Um, I think that's a trade-off that's worth it. In
Yeah.
because there's really most people who do storytelling and story writing have a picture they want to give to somebody, and if you do it in a way that it comes out fuzzy, then they're not going to understand what the story is doing anyway.
Yeah. That's something I've definitely realized over the years of like listening to other people tell their stories, telling my own stories.
Yeah, yeah. So when you hear somebody else tell their story and something like that happens, do you pick up a brick and hit them with it?
No.
Can I do it?
You are your own person.
I'll say it's from you. Here you go. Is that the biggest? There's got to be something that really sticks in your craw if somebody does something wrong. Is that the biggest thing that would turn you off of a story if someone wasn't able to do that?
Mm, there have only been a couple things that have turned me off of a story. Like quote unquote story. I don't like stories that repeat themselves
Ah, okay.
and that get extremely repetitive in the sense of they explain the same aspects of the plot to you over and over again, or they just come completely clean with what's going on instead of letting me think about it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, over detailed.
Yes.
Mm, all right. And what was the other thing, or is there another thing?
I would say, as much as I say I don't care about the bad writing, there's a little pet peeve in there that goes, if you cannot explain your themes to a degree that I can understand them, then that's going to irk me.
I still don't know what this story's about. Yeah, yeah, I can understand that for sure. That was most of my writing in junior high school. Just write random things until the teacher stops looking.
Yep.
Make it long so I get a B and then just walk out of the classroom. Oh, when you were in school, were you one of the type that would like over essay the essay questions?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I do know that at some point. when I was in school.
Mhm.
I ended up essaying the question so nicely that I was then contacted by my one of the professors that ran the higher level course for language arts, being like, you're in like the top 15% of the school. Do you want to join the class? And I was like, sure.
Cool. That that's a call you pat yourself on the back for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you fit in okay when you moved up to it?
I fit in all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I got there, I wasn't very fond of the structure of the essays they had us write.
Mm,
Uh, and especially moving on later, that structure that we were taught, no, it's not any good.
mm.
It, literally, as soon as I got into college classes, they were like, that structure sucks. We don't know why they're teaching that to you.
Yeah, yes. And one of the things I noticed in college writing is they absolutely hate commas. If you put a comma in there, they're going to be very angry with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about radio writing is you have to use commas. How are you going to tell when to pause? Uh, it,
I'd much rather use commas.
yes, yes. I mean, I don't really know how to use a semicolon, so I'm going to use a comma. Okay. No, they hate it. They hate it something fierce. Um, and then you have to rewrite the whole thing again, which is never fun. We actually had when I was first in junior college, I took a short fiction class because I needed an English class, and I
Hmm.
figured, short fiction, I can deal with that. We had a two-page story that we had to write a 10-page essay on, and I tell you this, I compared that to everything in the kitchen sink. I threw in football. I threw in cooking. I threw in every possible thing I could compare it to. Gave him 11 pages, and he X out completely at least two of them. Just a
Dang.
big X, red X through the whole thing. No, and I still got an A. I guess it was for effort more than anything else. Have you always been
Hmm.
somebody who can do that? Who can read into more than I could or Joe Average could of a short story and get a lot more out of it than I could.
I feel like it took a while
Mm,
for me to even get that skill.
mm,
Uh, because originally I couldn't, and I was very confused by it. Though one of the things that they had us do was, when I was going through school, was Nevermore, which I ended up learning later that if you want to dissect the themes of Nevermore, you have to read the first two things before that.
yeah.
And they never taught us that. I was so mad.
Yes, now just tell us what the thing was. Well, you didn't. It's not the whole thing. It doesn't. And no, they just do it and hand it in, and we don't really care. That's what it tells me. Now, I want to ask you.
uh,
I want to ask you a little bit about when you are reading on stream. How
mhm.
how do you interact with your chat when that's going on, or are you able to?
I'm able to. There are times where I pause and read, or since I get a lot of shorter things when I'm streaming, I tend to go through that. And then in the discussion phase where I talk about, oh, well, this is what's done, because how I get a lot of what I get is I actually run an event.
Mm,
The I call it aim to create. It's the idea is basically to take a couple of words and come up with something about it, and then people are allowed to turn it in, and I will go through it live and talk about how they incorporated that into what they did. And a
ah.
lot of time I get a lot of stories, shocker, based on the content I make.
Ah, there you go. That's good thinking. That's an automatic bunch of content right there, for that
Yeah,
sort of thing. So if I was to say that give you the words buzzard and mustard, and you have to come up with a story using both.
kind of. Uh, s-
Click buzz. No.
so taking this month, for example, the theme. So each week starts a new couple of words of theme.
Uh-huh.
And then the month as a whole has a one word theme. So for the month of April, the word is game. And then for this week, which is going to be week 3 of that challenge, it is corrupted game.
Mm. Okay.
And people take those words and come up with something as they see fit. As this is an idea to promote creativity, I don't say, oh, you have a word cap or a word limit that you need to hit, yada, yada, yada. It's you get done what you get done.
Mm.
And you should just be proud of that, whatever you get done.
That's cool. That's excellent. Are you a teacher?
No,
Did you want to be?
not really.
Mm. Because it a lot of these things, the talent that you have in wanting to spread that to everybody, it reminds me of someone who wants to instruct and shape people and pull them up and educate them into how to express themselves. Um,
Mm,
and to me, that screams somebody who wants to be a teacher. But that wasn't ever on your agenda.
nope.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Hmm. There's a story behind that. But I'm gonna have to wait until next time because I want to get you on again and talk more about it because this is
Oh,
extremely interesting and
yeah.
and there's a lot there. There's a lot there that my nose is twitching. There's a mystery going on. We're gonna have to find out more about you, Alarzya, and please come back on again because this has been absolutely wonderful for me. I think folks need to know what's going on with you. Um,
I would absolutely love
I
to.
appreciate that. We're gonna have all of the descriptions and all of the links we've been able to find on the description for this interview. Um, as long as we've done it, it hasn't been nearly enough. So please come back again soon. Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.